I would say the most significant thing that actually came out of 1993 was this moment here. It was a moment when three friends got together at a Denny's restaurant in San Jose, California, and they fleshed out an idea. The idea was to start a company that you may have heard of, a company called Nvidia. Now, I wonder how many of you might have heard of Nvidia, but you don't really know a lot about it. Hands up if you're like, I don't really know a lot about Nvidia. Okay, Nvidia, it's hard to overstate how big a deal Nvidia is. At one point recently, Nvidia made up, are you ready for this, 8% of the S&P 500. One stock. This has never happened before. They are the company that their GPUs, their chips, they are driving so much of what we're hearing from an AI perspective. It's all because of Nvidia, one of the most significant companies right now. And there's been a lot of talk about Nvidia's success, and that's great. I would say the most valuable lessons we can learn, though, were from a couple of missteps that Nvidia had early on that formed the DNA of this company. That's the thing that's created the success story we all now know. In fact, one of their biggest missteps was the release of this thing here. About 3 years into Nvidia's life, they released the NV1, and this was an incredibly audacious, revolutionary new type of chip, and they went all in. The problem was they fell into the innovation trap that it's so easy to fall into. They started innovation with the question of, what do we want to build? As opposed to, what do our customers want to buy? And they produced 250,000 of these chips and sent them out to be sold. They got back 249,000. They only sold 1,000 of these chips. It almost bankrupted the company. And it caused a whole bunch of soul searching. They required some emergency funding to keep the company afloat. And I was reading an interview recently with Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of Nvidia, one of the 3 people who was at that meeting in that Denny's restaurant. And reflecting on this time, he said this. He said it took a lot of humility to realize that our assumptions were wrong. We had just missed the market. Now, the key message here is this: humility is not about knowing less. And that's important. It's not about celebrating ignorance. Humility is not about knowing less, it's about assuming less. It's about holding our assumptions far more lightly, being willing to question ourselves, to open our minds, to think again, to rethink the things that we'd already decided were true.